host of this weekly webinar starting the school year in JMC. My name is Jake Banskoy. I am the head of training here at JMC. Thankful for you to join us for this wonderful weekly webinar and this eagerly anticipated. I know many of you have been anticipating this webinar since June 1st or whenever it was that you got out of school. Some of you, it probably feels like you never left. So happy to be joining you today live from SAI, the School Administrators of Iowa Conference here. So if you hear some noise in the background, that's what's going on. And I am flying solo today, so I'll be trying to keep an eye on your questions and going through this presentation as we get started here. So this is all about the start of the school year, and it's primarily the start of the school year checklist. So this is going to be me talking through a lot of items today as opposed to maybe training you on a specific process. So very, very valuable tool and possibly underutilized, because as the head of training at JMC, I often get plenty of questions from new users or from existing users that may be 1 or 2 years into the gig, or folks that just are getting back into the swing of things and need a prompt to, all right, what do I need to get going in JMC so that I start the year successfully? So the beginning of the school year is always an anxious time, as administrators and front office professionals want to make sure they are ready to roll for that first day of school. That's why JMC created the start of school year checklist. Easily access your to-do items for all the modules in JMC Office to ensure a smooth start to your school year. As you complete items and check them off the list, the page updates to show your progress toward having all items complete. As always, we have our wonderful Q&A feature built right in here to the Ring Central platform that we use for webinars. So if you have any questions or if you need to communicate with me in any way, please use that Q&A chat feature, and we will bounce back and forth here. So let's start with reviewing your start of school year to-dos. The start of school year checklist, located under File, Start of School Year Checklist. So File, Start of School Year Checklist. Start the school year off right by using JMC's Start of School Year Checklist to stay organized and on track. This tool walks you through the key setup tasks to ensure your data is accurate and ready for the year ahead. To get started, head to File, Start of School Year Checklist, and begin checking items off one by one. So a few of features on this page. We have an interactive progress bar. So stay on track and keep the momentum going with the JMC progress bar. As you check off items from your start of school year checklist, your progress updates automatically, giving you a real-time snapshot of how close you are to the finish line. The percentage tracker makes it easy to see how much you've accomplished and what's left, so you can pace yourself and be ready to roll when day one arrives. Your JMC checklist is designed to keep your school year set up organized and stress-free by breaking tasks down at both the district and building levels. The district checklist covers the big picture items that impact every building in your district, while each building checklist focuses on school-specific tasks to help every building get ready for the first day of school. With JMC, your entire district stays on track, organized, and ready for a smooth start to the school year. And one thing that I would add to this is, if you have multiple people working in JMC completing multiple tasks, this checklist is a great way to keep everybody in your district up to date as to who is doing what and what has been taken care of. Because, all of this stuff, many of our small schools might have 1 person or 2 people that handle everything in JMC. But for our larger districts, you might have many people that take care of several of these different items, both at the district and building level. So keeping an eye on each other's progress is helpful to keep everybody on staff informed. So let's take a live look at reviewing some of the start of school year to-dos. So again, I'm under File, Start of School Year Checklist. And a couple of things that I spoke about already. If you switch the building level, right now I'm at the school building level, to the district level, you'll notice that there are a few different items to take care of. So we have your welcome message and your progress bar, and that's the same at the district level. However, you switch over to the building level and there's some additional to-dos. So If I go back to the district level here and I pull up the menu items, these are much smaller in comparison. So this is a smaller list of things, but you know, free and reduced lunches, items in the lunch module, the tuition and fees module specifically will have to be done at the district level, and your building level items would things like scheduling and grading, for example, and setting up period attendance. Those items would be carried out at the building level. So you can either use this switch building drop-down list to switch to the district level so that you can access both the district and building, or if you go to your specific building, you're just going to see your building level to-dos. Again, here's the progress bar right up at the top, letting me know that I've completed some items. I'm 7% of the way finished with starting the school year. And if I pull up my checklist here, I have a little check mark next to schedules to let me know that I'm completed with the scheduling processes, or at least I've said I'm completed with scheduling. So any questions about that initial foray? We're going to go into some of the more specifics here. I'm going to take a look, and I don't see any questions. So we're going to go through some of the specific items, and I'm just going to kind of go through the checklist and call out some specific things that your district might use. So checking items off the checklist, JMC makes it simple to stay organized and delegate tasks with the easy-to-use menu items drop-down list. This drop-down list highlights key areas of JMC that need your attention to kick off the school year, from scheduling to activities and beyond. You can even divide and conquer by having different team members tackle their specific sections, like assigning activities to your activities director. Checkboxes are simple visual markers that help you track your progress by checking off tasks as you complete them, keeping your back-to-school setup organized and on pace. Hyperlinks are handy shortcuts built right into each checklist task, linking you directly to the exact page in JMC where the work gets done. No guesswork, no extra clicks. Simply click the hyperlink, that blue hyperlink, and it will take you directly to the spot in JMC that needs your attention. So let's take a live look at crossing off your start of school year to-dos. And I'm going to start at the district level, and this is where I'm going to start calling out some specific items. So starting with this welcome message. So it gives you kind of the information that we just went through about the purpose of the start of school year checklist. Fun fact, each building has their own checklist to finish for the start of the year, and the district is able to view each building's progress on their list. So from the district level, you can see both your district and the building, as I mentioned before. Helpful tip, the items listed on each page do not need to be completed if your school does not use that particular module or function, nor do they need to be completed sequentially. So cross the items off the list and remember you've got this. So really all this checklist is a visual milestone marker to let you know that these are the items that most schools would need to pay attention to. If your school doesn't use a module, or you've already taken care of an item, or an item does not need to be done in JMC, you can mark it off and it will show you your progress as you continue. So starting at the district level, we're going to just take a look at the modules, and there are a few things at the district level. I believe this is also at the building level. You can use that mass change field to wipe out old locker numbers in mass for students. The mass change fields, you can change the graduation date for your entire graduating grade level at the district level. These are both done on the mass change fields page. And of course, setting your district calendar. This is probably the most important function, the first thing that every school would have to do, whether you add locker numbers and combinations or not. Many of you will have to add graduation dates for state reporting purposes, but all of you will have to set the calendar to do anything in JMC. And if you click that hyperlink, it's going to take you directly to the spot in the program that you set your calendar. You can see I have my first day of school, my last day of school set, and if I switch over to a building level here, I have my term date set, and I can check that easily by clicking that view quick links, or the view term dates quick link. So I have all of my semester and quarter and hexes if I'm using hexes. And once I have noted that this is complete, I'm going to go back to my started school year checklist at the district level, and I'm going to mark it as done, and my progress will be noted right up there in the progress bar. Family access, nothing to take care of there, so we're finished with that. Online family registration, actually, I'm just going to mark these two off because I don't do locker combinations, and I have set a graduation. Actually, you know what? I haven't set a graduation date, so I'm going to show you how to do that quickly. It's under that mass change fields. I click the hyperlink to take me right there. I'm going to change the graduation date. I love this feature in JMC, by the way, the mass change fields feature. There are a number of things that you can change in mass, and all you really have to do is follow the text on the screen, and it walks you through exactly what it is that you're changing. So I want to change the graduation date. Again, I could choose other things, like if I wanted to clear out locker combinations, I could do that. Graduation date to the new value of whatever my graduation date is going to be. It's probably like, let's go May 22nd for students in the senior class. So my 12th graders, if a student already has a value in the field, I can choose not to change it, or I can overwrite that data. I'm going to choose not to change it just in case somebody set a graduation date. And then I can change active students only, or I can change inactive, or I can change active and inactive both. But right now I'm just going to stick with the active students. And click that Find Student. It's going to let me know that I'm about to make this change for 14 students in the district. I click Update Students. Yes, I want to make this mass change. I click OK. Now it's letting me know that I've made the change. And if I go to the View Student Data page and I find a 12th grader, as long as they're active, which the student is, now the graduation date is set. So if I didn't use that mass change feature, I'd have to go in there and add a graduation date for each of my seniors. But now that I've used that, it's in there for everybody. So once I'm completed, I can go back to my start of school year checklist, mark it off as done, and it shows up with a little check mark in that checkbox letting me know that I'm complete. Online registration. Many of you are doing online registration, and you already probably have this configured the way that you need to configure it. If you're turning on registration or shutting off registration, this is a reminder that you would want to double check to make sure that if you are finished with registration that you've shut it off. If that's your prerogative, you can leave it open all year long and you can accept any changes that come in from your families as the year progresses. But this is just drawing your attention to this item. Yes, I've paid attention to this item. If you have any questions specifically about online registration or anything in JMC, I would highly recommend you to check out our help center. And our help center is divided amongst things like online registration, so I can learn what it's all about to customize my building's online registration settings. This is that link that's going to take me to the configuration options page. It gives me the step-by-step instructions. So this is a very helpful tool, especially if you're brand new to JMC. You want to know what you need to do to get started. This is what you do on the checklist. Well, how do you do it? You can go to the help center. And one easy way to find what you're looking for is if you search, I can Command C to copy, and I can search the pathway, and then the articles that have that pathway present in it are going to show up right here. So this is all about JMC Family and configuring the Family app and configuring online settings and for back to school registration and things like that. So great resource over here. We also have our YouTube channel. Highly recommend you checking out our new user series on our YouTube channel, especially for those that are new to JMC. Moving right along, the online settings. This is under File, Online Settings. This is going to provide access or specific access to your families. Many of you, if you're carrying over from last year, are going to have the same settings, but the lunch alerts is probably the key thing at the district level that you would keep an eye on. Free and reduced lunches, one of the first things that your food service professional is probably going to do is import free and reduced status from last year, so they can start off those first 30 days of the school year with the kids receiving the benefits that they should. And that's, a lot of these imports, it's just a click, and it looks like this has been run for this school year already. So I can mark that as done. And I'm moving right along here. Tuition and fees. This is going to be importing account balances from the prior year. And then if I have any new fees that I need to add, I can edit fees and I can import fees from prior year. So we have several imports. If we didn't pull over this information, this is letting me down. All right, I've already done this import. Great. I'll show you a handy little shortcut here. Something that I like to do is if I'm moving from one page to another in JMC and I want to continue accessing, so I've got multiple tabs open. This is my help center. But let's say I want to bounce straight to that edit fees page, but I want to keep this start of school year checklist handy so I don't have to keep going through the pathway. I'm on a Mac, so I'm going to command click, and it's going to open up a new page for me. I think it's a control click if you're on a Windows machine. But I would start importing fees. I've already imported fees. If I had any fees that I need to add, I can do that. I'm going to mark that done as complete. The lunch module, there's an import that you would do. Again, I'm going to just command click to make sure that that's already been done. Yes, it's already been done. I can mark that as complete, and so on and so forth. You want to go through a few items on the building level. Unless there are any questions on the district level. Just checking, it doesn't look like there are any questions. So continuing through the to-do list on the building level here. Again, the welcome gives you some of those high-level instructions. Here there are some more things to take care of at the building level, specifically with starting with the modules themselves and getting folks access to the modules that they need. For example, you have any new front office staff, they would need to be added on the file application security page. So make sure those new office personnel have usernames and passwords and the appropriate privileges. Once you're convinced that they do, you mark that item off. And then probably the next item that many folks are going to have to do at the start of this school year would be with teachers. So attendant staff teachers, add any new teachers that you have to your district. Once they're added, you can place a check mark in that checkbox here. Actually, I'm going to go to my building level so I can mark some of these items off. So file application security, there we go. I've added all new office users. Do I need to assign locker combinations? Yeah, I've already decided that I'm going to clear those out. Some of you might be getting ready for student photos or to import student photos. You have picture day, might be one of the first things that you do in JMC. You might have to come back to this after your file folder or your photos are updated from your vendor. But this might give you a good prompt to maybe look at our resources for importing student photos using a vendor. We have on the attendant student list page, we've got a file that you can create to share with your photo vendor that would then be able to allow you to import those photos for all students at once. And again, we cover that in detail in a YouTube video. Let's see if I can pull that up. I go to JMC training on YouTube. And I'm going to search student photos. Let's see what we have here. So importing student photos, the webinar that we did last year. It's a relatively short process, but I can go to the description of the YouTube video, and it will let me know how to create and export a student photo file, how to add vendor photos in bulk, and then how to add photos for an individual student. So, you can use this checklist as a reference and then use your tools like YouTube and the Help Center to get to the nitty gritty with how to do that. Defining your custom fields is probably something that you're going to do during online registration. Student data, you can take a look at individual students, especially when it gets down to adding any comments or special education records. As mentioned before, the teachers and creating substitutes, a very handy piece in JMC. If you have not added substitutes, or if your district uses substitute teachers but you do not give them generally access to JMC, it's a very handy thing, especially for long-term subs that have to do things like take attendance and maybe do some gradebook functions. You can look up how to do that on our YouTube channel, but it's pretty simple. You can follow that link there, attendance, staff, substitutes. I can add my substitute the same way as I would add a teacher, and then you can give that substitute teacher access to one of your full-time teachers' gradebooks. So I can pull up that teacher. I can decide, all right, when does that access start? When does it end? And then what level of access am I going to grant them? Am I going to grant them full gradebook and attendance access, or just one or the other? And granting that access to your substitute teachers is going to allow them to use their own credentials to log in. So an added security piece there, and it's going to give them access to the specific teacher gradebooks that they need. So not sure how many people are aware of that feature in JMC, but attendance, staff, substitutes is a great way to get extra folks access if they need it. Heading down my list here, so I'm going to mark that as complete. Heading down my list, so that's the JMC modules. Scheduling, I know my guidance counselor is already taking care of all my scheduling. So that's all marked off. And that's kind of another thing here too. If you're in a bigger school and you have a health professional that has to take care of some items, or they're first coming in and they're wondering, oh, what do I need to do? Or maybe you hired a new health person. Hey, here are the items that you need to take care of typically. And, let me know if you have any questions. Here are the resources for doing so. But then they have their own set of to-dos. So not everything falls at the feet of your front office professional. The grading items, a few things that I wanted to point out with grading, because there are some imports, particularly with report cards. And this is more for the folks that use standards-based report cards, or that use standard-based grading. Under standards and benchmarks definitions, you need to import standards and benchmarks definitions from a prior year. And that's the first thing that you would do. This has already been done for me, but if you go to your edit, let's just go to edit standards page, or you go to your edit subject areas page, and there's nothing in here, and you've used a standard-based report card in the past, that's your first indication that you need to import your stuff from the prior school year into the current school year. So it's a simple process. It's done with a click, and then all of your standards will be updated so your teachers can get access to it. It's probably something that even without the checklist, your teachers are going to be coming into your office saying, hey, I don't have access to my standards, so I can't add them to my grade book. That'll give you the hint right away that, oh, I think there's something that I need to do. And that is the first thing. Updating transcripts. Sorry, I think I put the check mark in the wrong thing. That's a nice thing. If you accidentally check an item off, I can remove that check mark. My progress is going to go down, but it's going to let me know that I still need to pay attention to that item. Transcripts and graduation requirements for the credit checker. There are some imports that would need to be done. Importing progress from the prior year. The transcript linker is going to allow you to bring transcripts up to date and use cumulative data for transcripts. You can update that with a click. This will immediately initiate a process. to update transcript information may take several minutes to complete. I probably don't have a whole lot of transcript information, so this probably won't take a ton of time for me, but larger schools with a lot of students with a lot of transcripts, this might take a few minutes, so you might want to take some time to do this when you're not going to have network interruptions. So back to my start of school year checklist. I've done my import. Gives you some directions for editing student test scores. At this point, you might not have standardized test scores, but you can at least make the decision as to what test scores you're going to display in JMC Family. The test score selection page allows you to grab a test and then decide whether or not you're going to show it on screen or show it on the transcript. So it's under the test score selections page. And another thing that I like about the start of the school year checklist is sometimes it gives you some insight into some tools that maybe you didn't know you had available to you, but you know that could be really handy. So if I'm in elementary, I don't do anything with standardized test scores, or I do very little with standardized test scores or transcripts. I can easily come through here and mark these items off. Message center, you know, this just gives you some directions to maybe set up voice messages or send text messages to the parents to let them know that the school year is starting. Nothing crazy that needs to be done with your message center. Family access, again, you can merge contact records, and this is probably something that you're already doing through the online registration process or the back to school registration process. It's going to give you links to merge student data, but really what you're going to want to keep an eye on is these alerts in your upper right hand corner. This will let you know if you have any pending contact submissions or pending student submissions. This is for online registration. You can click those quick links. It'll take you right to the page that you would need to merge. So attendance, contacts, merge contact submissions. You can either accept or reject the changes. And once you do so, the alert will go away. So I have a few pending student submissions, and throughout the year, I would advise you to keep an eye out on that that home page in JMC Office, just to make sure that you are keeping up to date with all of your submissions that may be happening throughout the year. So I must have had one family that completed the process. I also, looks like I have a discipline record already. If it's the first day of school, that's a bad start, but all your discipline records, your communication records, they'll show up in the upper right hand corner as well. So back to the start of school year checklist. You can mark those as done, and that's kind of an ongoing thing. And then the online configuration, this is for online registration again. You have a building configuration and you have a district configuration as well. So there are some items. I think the one thing that I would draw your attention to from this page would be the family access settings. And this is a part of online registration or back to school registration. This allow new student addition. Many schools, for their existing families, will choose not to allow new student additions to happen at this time. You know, you might have a separate process for that, like kindergarten roundup. I know a lot of our schools do kindergarten roundup maybe in February, so they can figure out who's going to be incoming for the next school year. What I've noticed is if schools leave this checked, then sometimes families add a student by accident, thinking that they need to add siblings when they might already be in JMC. It's not a huge deal because you can reject the parent submission, but you know, it's just one of those fail safes that you could choose to shut off, especially if you do that kindergarten roundup at a separate time. I want to pause for a second to see if there are any questions coming through. Not seeing any. If you have any questions as I go through this, please let me know. Feels like I'm shouting into the void on this but there's a lot of useful information on the start of school year checklist. So I'm just going to keep trucking right away. Family registration, again, view and manage what parents can submit. That's during that online registration process. I'm going to go back and mark that off. The online module, this is under File Online Settings. This is where there are a few things that you would do here. The screen allows you to determine how different online modules are used. So I'm just going to go to File Online Settings and point out a few of these things. So File Online Settings, again, these are, I've got teachers, I've got course registration access, I've got family access, and I've got student access. So some of you, the first thing that you might need to change is the term that you would like displayed on report cards and for scheduling. So some of you choose to keep all year displayed. Some of you want to go SEM 1 only. If you're on SEM 2, when you go to this, because you finished out the year last year, I think it defaults back to SEM 1, but you might just want to double check that to make sure your families are viewing the term that you want them to view. Same with the report card term. Do you want displayed SEM 1? Do you want displayed a quarter or a trimester? Make sure it's the correct trimester. And that's something that you would have to change midway through the year to give families access to the proper terms. Beyond that, just about any piece of data that comes through JMC, you can decide whether you want to show it or hide it on the family portal. So many schools choose to shut off family and student access to scheduling information during the summer because they don't want families and students to be emailing because of an incomplete schedule. They see some data there in JMC, so they think, oh, this is what my schedule is. Well, it's not complete yet, so a lot of our guidance counselors choose to shut this off. Well, if your schedules are set, now would be a good time to turn that on so your families and students can access scheduling information. The rest of these, I think, are pretty self-explanatory. The family alerts, I think the thing to check in here would be to make sure that you have a reply to address listed here. And it's probably going to be your front office staff. But if an email address is not in here, your families are not going to be able to see alerts as they come out. So missing scores, attendance alerts, grade checks, and things of that nature, your families won't see unless there's an email address in there. If you make any changes to this page, click Save at the bottom. Teacher access as well. This is something that you can review as needed. If you are a school that's been with JMC for a while, these settings are probably nothing that you would have to worry about. But if you are re-looking at some policies, maybe you want to disallow teachers to enter reasons for attendance now. You have somebody in the front office that's going to handle that. A lot of schools that I work with disallow teachers to enter reasons. They might allow teachers to view reasons, but they don't want teachers to change those reasons, especially if they've been entered in the office. So that's a configuration that I see quite frequently. Allowing teachers to view discipline information. Now, this is something that comes up. It seems to, schools oscillate back and forth between how much information they want their teachers to be able to view. If they want them to view discipline referrals for all students, you can check that. If you don't want them to view any discipline information, you can check that, or you can decide whether or not you want to have your teachers view only the discipline records that they have submitted or for the students in their classes. So a few different controls on your discipline. These are all part of online settings. Course registration, especially if the schedule's already completed, you might want to close registration so you don't have any errored registrations coming in. Student access, very similar to the family access. You decide what you want your students to be able to see through the JMC student portal. So those are your online settings. I'm going to continue on. Free and reduced lunches. These are your imports that I mentioned earlier. determining free and reduced lunch statuses. These are items that your food service professional might want to take care of. And we have a Lunch and Learn or a Lunch 101 webinar that covers everything that you would need to know about free and reduced lunch and determining free and reduced lunch statuses, including direct certification imports, creating that letter or sending that letter, I should say, and making a determination for an individual student. Point of sale, probably the big thing for this would be to make sure that whoever is going to be sitting at the end of your lunch line has access to the point of sale platform. That's done under file application security. You can give them make changes access to the point of sale. And then they'll be able to log in with their office credentials to do that. State reporting is kind of a big one. For anybody in your district that might be responsible for making sure that data gets reported to the state correctly. First off, I will plug our state reporting roundups. These are comprehensive trainings that walk through many of the items on this checklist, such as importing enrollment history, importing special education history if needed, generating student lists and things of that nature. And I'm in an Iowa database right now, and there was a change recently to Iowa attendance. We will go through that in depth at the state reporting roundup for the state of Iowa. But some items that might be specific to your state will be listed in that state reporting menu. Period attendance. If you have not set your reasons and cutoffs, this is a great time to do that. Once students are marked absent for a reason starting day one, it's not advised to change your reasons. So if you're going to relook at the reasons that your school uses for coding absences or coding attendance, this is a great time to do that, especially valuable for our Iowa schools that are dealing with some new attendance guidelines that we'll go over in depth during that state reporting roundup. Standards and benchmarks. I think I mentioned this before, but importing standards and benchmarks from a prior year, that's probably the number one task that you'll need to take care of. And then bulk loading report card forms to your students. So to make sure that your students have those custom report cards or the standards-based report cards, you would bulk load those report cards for all of your students. So take you through that process really quickly. This is under standards and benchmarks, student bulk load report card forms. All of the forms that are in your form designer are going to be listed on this list. And then you'd select the report card form, and then you'd select the grade level that needs this report card form uploaded. So I click load, and it's going to load that report card for the students that are listed there. So pretty easy task, only takes a couple minutes, but again, that's something that your teachers are going to remind you of if you get to the school year and they log in and they're trying to edit a student's report card or trying to add results to a student report card and they don't see the report card there. This is the task that you would have to complete so that they see the report card, as long as it's created in JMC, of course. So a few health items, the health history categories, add, remove any new ones. The health accessibility, you decide what you want your parents and teachers to see, and then make sure that you've got updated medical emergency plans. You can also allow your teachers to see those medical emergency plans, and they'll show up in JMC office with a little red cross next to their name. Along with the plan, that is. One of the items, a couple of the different items for the lunch module, assigning lunch contacts. This is something that can be initialized, so you can do this in bulk, and this is under lunch. I believe it's under data setup, and then initialize family lunch contacts. As you get new students into your building, and the start of the year is a good time to do this, you'd have to create a lunch contact for all those students that don't have one. This will create a lunch contact based on the student's primary contact. So if a student has a primary contact, but they don't have a lunch contact, clicking this button is going to make their lunch contact their primary contact, which is probably the case for 90% of your students. There are some instances where a student's lunch contact might differ from their primary contact. You can go and change those manually, which is what that checklist is suggesting. The new student wizard, what this is, and you might have some adults that are choosing to eat lunch at your school and they want to have their own account, especially if you have new teachers to your building. You would need to add that teacher as a student. It's an adult. You would choose the adult group, and then they can manage their own lunch accounts through the instructions that are listed here. We also have a great resource on creating lunch accounts for students. I'm sorry, for teachers. Still don't see any questions, so I'm just going to keep plugging away. Just a few more items here. Integrations. If you are integrating with a third-party software, first off, you'll want to make sure that that integration is set up. You can go to File, Integrations, and you can turn on this integration. If you would like to integrate with a third-party software like Canvas or Clever or Google Classroom, you can reach out to support@jmcinc.com and we can get you set up with that integration. Again, here's a check mark that tells you whether or not the integration is enabled. So I'm going to enable Google Classroom, click Save, and then I can actually go into my Google Classroom integration. There are some additional pieces that I can set up, including I can sync Google Classroom and JMC if there are any courses that are connected to our school's JMC courses. Back to the checklist. Just a couple more items here. Online payments. Reviewing online payments setup for accepting credit card and ACH payments for food service and fees in JMC. For the most part, this is nothing that you can really touch, but you can review the settings here. And if something has changed, like let's say you want to start charging a convenience fee, that's mostly for tuition and fees. I don't think it's legal to charge a convenience fee for lunch settings, but for those of you that are using online payments, you can check these settings, and if any of this needs to be adjusted, email support@jmcinc.com and we will make those updates for you. So if you're charging, or if you want to increase the minimum deposit amount that a family can use for online payments, let us know. We can bump that up. Last but certainly not least, your activities, and this might be something that you pass along to your activities director. Any activity rosters that need to be edited, this is a good time to do that. And actually, one of the biggest time savers from one year to the next is this import previous year's roster button. So for the most part, let's say your band and choir, you have an activities roster for band and choir or football or volleyball or whatever it might be. You can import from the previous year, and anybody that was involved in that activity that hasn't graduated will populate this list. And then you can just go in and add any new students that might be participating in those activities, or you can remove any students that are no longer participating in those activities. And the nice thing about once you've created a roster for an activity, you've imported that previous year's roster, your coaches then can edit their own rosters themselves using the Coach Advisor app. So big time saver there. And speaking of that Coach Advisor app, update any coach or advisor information, or anybody who's been added as a coach or advisor to any sport. You can follow this link. So it's edit activity coach or advisor. This is where you would add those folks. So anybody that might be added, or like, this is perfect for coaches that might not be teachers in your district. You click that add coach. If they are teachers in your district, it's easy. You just say, hey, I'm going to grab a teacher from my list. If they're not, all they need is a name, a username, a password, an email, and a phone number. And once you've updated that, you can assign a coach to an activity, which is what this next link is going to take you to, the edit activities definition. And right down here, if you've given your coach access to the activity, they can download that coach advisor app and they can see a number of things, including their roster. They can edit their roster. They can remove students from their roster. They can see attendance information. They can see eligibility information, which is important in that early communication. If you have not been utilizing the Coach Advisor app, the start of the year, that first meeting that your activities director has with their students, this is a great, or with their coaches, this is a great time to get them on board with that. And we have a resource on getting started in the Coach Advisor app available on our training YouTube page. I'm just going to pull up, just going to search coach. And communication from the sidelines is what you're going to want here. And that goes through the setup of activities. It also goes through downloading the app for your coaches and the various things that your coaches can use the app for. With that, I think that takes us through every item on our checklist. Does anybody have any questions or thoughts or words of wisdom as we get started with the school year? If not, it is time to move on to JMC news and upcoming events. Do you have new JMC users or returning staff members on your team? Hosting a regional workshop is hands down the best way to get them up to speed on our tools before the school year starts. How it works: you provide the room and we treat your staff and nearby schools to personalized training that will leave them saying, I've got this. If you're down to host, please email us with a few days and times that work in August or September for a 2 to 4 hour workshop, depending on your training needs. Our client services specialists are getting ready to get you ready for the fall term as part of the summer check-in calls. They'll ring you this month to share a few back to school tools, most notably our start of school year checklist. So if you have any questions about any of the items on that list, be on the lookout for any of those calls. And these folks are great folks to get you some in-time training as you're working your way through that checklist. If you have any immediate questions, you can email amy.bemis@jmcinc.com, or you can email training@jmcinc.com. In addition to state-specific regulatory roundup webinar sessions throughout the month, you can access our state reporting resource hub and YouTube channel at any time to learn and troubleshoot at your own pace, be it navigating, data collection, error detection, correction, or the submission phase. Keep reporting snag-free and government funds flowing. So in addition to those state reporting roundups, as I mentioned before, take a look at our help center for our state reporting resources. On September 26th, the General Store portal will launch as your one-stop shop for selling merch, tickets, and community ed classes and events, and managing fundraising. If you'd like to get the full 411 before the launch, register for our August 13th webinar, where our trainers will walk you through key features, the fuss-free setup process, and benefits to your district, with time reserved to answer any questions you may have. Thank you for joining me for this weekly webinar. I wish you a happy start to your school year. If you have any questions, please reach out to training@jmcinc.com, and we will catch you on the flip side.